time. Let's get things kicked off, shall we? Can you start the wonderful PowerPoint, sir?
Oh, I put my heart into this one. This is.
Yes, you definitely did not work on this just now. This looks nice and prepared. Just kidding.
Yes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Far West Systems Management User Group meeting. I'm so glad that you could join us today. Like Johan says, it looks like we have people from multiple time zones. So from wherever you are, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be covering Windows 11 management and deployment. It feels so weird to say because I remember sitting at Ignite in Chicago, just having my mind blown by Windows 10 deployment. And here we are with Windows 11. So I'm very excited. We have quite a speaker lineup today. So I'm very excited to share everything with you. But before we do that, we do have some housekeeping issues to talk about first. Next slide, please. This session is being recorded. Yes, it will be made available for playback. We are switching to a different platform. So if you've joined previous meetings, we were using GoToWebinar. This is my first time using Zoom as a webinar, so I don't know how long after the recording will be available. Could be instantly, could be a few hours. But once we have it ready, we will post it for you and we will tweet those links so that you can share with friends and family. If you are having technical issues, I would try leaving the meeting and rejoining. Everything seems to be working okay, so we're going to assume that everything's okay. Please be professional and courteous in the chat. The internet is written in ink, so everything that you say is being recorded in the chat and may or may not be used against you in the future. I'm seeing in the chat that Zoom takes about an hour. Thank you so much for that. But anyway, please be nice. I have had to kick people out before. I won't hesitate to do it again. That was my mom voice, and that's the only time I'm going to use it. Just be nice. If you use, well, I don't know if this one's true. Again, I'm new to the Zoom platform. Previously, the questions went directly to me, and then I assigned them out. But again, use the chat for your questions, and they will get answered in one way or another by the presenters. You can tweet about our meeting using our event hashtag, FWSMUG. I feel like a cheerleader saying all those letters. But yes, that is the housekeeping. Next slide.
Yes.
Thank you to our fabulous sponsor, Morollis, which is a company that I founded. I am the CEO, and I have some wonderful employees, some of which are presenting today. So yes, please be sure to check us out. If you have any consulting needs, Morollis.com, or if you're interested in one of our many trainings, then you can check out our Via Monstra Academy. We are wrapping up courses for the year, but we will be starting fresh in January. So I hope to see you guys signed up for additional trainings. Next, please. We love questions. We absolutely love them. Keep them coming. Johan loves questions a little bit more than I do. So definitely direct them to Johan. I get asked questions by a 7-year-old boy quite frequently throughout the day. So I'm a little bit questioned out. But if they're technical questions, maybe I'll be a little bit more forgiving if they are repetitive. Next.
Yes, this is the agenda.
I will hand this off to Johan to go through the agenda. I will be muting myself and turning off my video so that I can stare at my plants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the introduction, Amy. And once again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us here for our first user group meeting on the Zoom platform. That's the platform we've been using for all our trainings, and we figured why not use something that I use every other day anyway, that I know, and that's here we are. Apparently there was a question in the chat, Amy, what's your favorite dinosaur? Don't know about that.
I don't know how to spell it, but we've talked a lot about pterodactyls. So pterodactyl.
Sounds good. All right. So this is what we're up against today. Half-hour sessions-ish with a 9-10 minute break in between the two of them. we have some Microsoft speakers joining. We have some former Microsoft speaker joining us. And we also end our day today with some additional Q&A for those who want to just stick around and ask some additional questions. So with that, I know we are a few minutes early according to our little agenda here, but Aria, are you by any chance ready to present?
Sure. Hi, all. Nice to be here with you all today. Hope you're having a great morning, evening, or afternoon. I'm going to steal the sharing.
Please do.
Oh, I can't steal the sharing.
Wait a minute, I have a fix for that. Coming up right now. How about now?
Perfect.
And first of all, thank you so much for joining us and congratulations on a downright amazing Ignite session earlier this month. That one was impressive. I'm almost about to get the light board myself now just because of it.
I'm hoping
Sorry,
we use
go
more
ahead.
of it. I'm very much hoping we use more of it since I think it was much better. And it felt more like being back in the office with whiteboards. So hello all. In case you didn't know, we just released this thing called Windows 11. And we are soon going to be releasing this thing called Windows 10 21H2. And so I just want to talk a bit about how to manage it. It'll be a fairly high level overview. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out either directly to me via Twitter, tech community, or email. Next slide. So the agenda is pretty simple. We'll talk about managing Windows 11, which it turns out very similar to managing Windows 10. We'll talk about some recent improvements because I feel like more people should know about them. And then we'll talk about what's coming soon and stuff that you maybe can't do yet, but it's good to know that it's coming. So first up, Windows 11 update management. What are the actual differences versus what is exactly the same as Windows 10? So the biggest difference, and actually really the only main difference you need to know about, is for Windows Update for business users. Deferrals alone will not move you from Windows 10 to Windows 11. You will not be, and your end users will not be, if managed, automatically updated from Windows 10 to Windows 11. If you are currently just rolling out with deferrals to roll out in waves, good job, you're killing it. But you'll need to take an extra step if you want to go to Windows 11 versus Windows 10 21H2 when it's released. And that extra step is configuring target product version. And that can be done through the new Windows Update for Business deployment service in Intune or the Graph API, or via GP or CSP, depending on what management tool you're using or how you're going about managing. But that is really needed because when you move to Windows 11, you are also accepting the new end user license agreement on behalf of your end users. And so make sure you read it. It's pretty much the same. There's like a few lines that are different, but you need to accept that. So please look at it. And by using Windows Update for Business or WSS, your end users won't have to agree to the end user license agreement themselves in the prompts. So it's good to go through that and to agree and to then deploy it using that. Your deferrals will still take effect. So if you are still configuring your deferrals, you can still roll out in waves. Just note that you'll need to set target product version to Windows 11 prior to them actually being offered Windows 11. Now, the last note there is, as everyone is well aware, there are some minimum requirements that are new for Windows 11 than there were for Windows 10. And so if your device isn't eligible, meaning it doesn't meet those hardware requirements, unfortunately, your device will not be offered. Now, that means if your device has been configured to move to Windows 11 via target product version, and it doesn't, and you note that it doesn't because it's not eligible, which we will automatically not offer to avoid devices hitting setup failures and things like that, I would recommend changing the product policy for the group of devices that didn't upgrade to be Windows 10 21H2, either by setting target product version or by simply using deferrals without any target product version. So that's just things to think about. With Windows Server Update Service, the only difference is there's a new product category. Just add the new Windows 11 products category, and then you'll see the feature updates for Windows 11 and deploy them. The other difference there is if devices are ineligible, the update will appear inapplicable to them. Note, for that to automatically happen and to avoid devices hitting setup blocks later on, devices need to be sending basic and above telemetry. If they're not, no worries. The update will appear applicable. You'll deploy it and they'll hit a setup block upon getting the update. And that brings us to why analytics is super duper important. I also cannot see the chat. So if there are questions, please feel free to just, Johan or Ami or even Michael, since I see you here, shout them out and I can try to answer them. Keyword try. So analytics is really important here to determine eligibility ahead of time. So with that, I want to show a demo of how you can use update compliance to actually determine whether or not devices are eligible for Windows 11. Now, note, you could also use the endpoint analytics. You can use the PowerShell script. There are a variety of ways that you can actually tell whether or not devices are eligible for Windows 11. In Zoom, hopefully when I play the video, you can hear the audio. If you cannot, please let me know ASAP and I can speak to it instead. Oops.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Geyer, and I'm going to show you what's available in Intune today to deploy Windows 11, as well as some live code running internally in Intune for scheduling feature updates, which we're working hard to bring to you very soon. Let's take a look at deploying Windows 11 in Intune using a new feature update policy. You can see that deploying Windows 11 is just like deploying a Windows 10 feature update. You simply select it from the list. I'm sure you noticed the info bar that is shown when we selected Windows 11. And this is here to inform you that by creating this policy, you are agreeing to the new license terms on behalf of the assigned devices and users. It's that easy. Assigned devices that meet the minimum hardware requirements will upgrade to Windows 11. In addition, you can see we now have some new rollout options that will be available soon. The default is to start making the update or upgrade available to all devices once the policy is submitted. No change from how it's worked until now. But now you can set the start date where all devices are now able to get the selected feature update or upgrade on the specified date. This is very similar to the deferrals and update rings, except now you don't have to do the math and research to figure out how many deferral days you need from the publish time until the day you want to start deploying the feature update. And we are providing an additional option, the gradual rollout. Gradual rollout allows you to automatically spread over time when devices are offered the feature update in deployment groups. So we set the first group availability date for when we want to make the update available. Let's set it to January 3rd to start right after the holiday. And then set the final group availability date, which is a date that all remaining devices will have the update available. And we'll set this for a 2-month rollout. Remember, these dates aren't necessarily the dates a device will receive the update. It's when they are now approved in Windows Update for those devices, and the next time they scan is when they will start to download and install. This can vary by device based on usage, connectivity, and so on. The other setting you can set is the days between deployment groups. And this is basically the frequency of when a new group of devices will start to have access to the update, as explained a bit earlier in this session. I'll set this to 14 days so that new groups of devices begin receiving the update every 2 weeks. An optional step that you can take that will enable the intelligence of gradual rollout described earlier in this session is to configure a client policy that approves the processing of client data to optimize the order of devices receiving the update. Let's quickly take a look at how to do that. When you create a new configuration profile, use the settings catalog as I have already started. Add a setting. and starts by searching for Allow Windows Update for Business Cloud Processing. You should find this policy under the System category. Once you find it, select and add that policy to the profile and enable the policy. Once you assign devices and submit this policy, gradual rollouts will automatically start taking advantage of the client details to optimize your rollout. There you go. A quick run through of a few new controls that provides a bunch of new capabilities available now and also coming soon to Intune. They'll make your Windows 11 rollout the best Windows upgrade you've ever deployed.
Okay, full disclosure, I got the demos completely backwards. So that was how you can actually deploy Windows 11 with Intune in our new gradual rollout capabilities, which I will talk about a little bit more in a second. I still do want to show the demo for how you can actually check the analytics, and then I will talk about both. Apologies for the confusion there on the backward demos.
My name is David Geyer, and I'm going to show you what's available in Intune today to deploy Windows 11, as well as some live code.
It's the same video. There you go. Okay, we're just going to have me talk to it instead, since apparently I don't know how to use demos. I'm usually doing them live, so this is definitely not my best showing. Either way, in update compliance, as well as in endpoint analytics, there are going to be readiness reports. And in them, especially, you'll be able to see a new Windows 11 readiness status. Unfortunately, for update compliance, you will need to use, I believe it is full telemetry for the new Windows 11 readiness report, which is a bummer because the rest of update compliance uses basic telemetry. That said, if you're using full telemetry, you'll get this nice report you see on the left, where basically you'll be able to see the readiness status, the readiness reason, and if it's not compatible, why. Note, there's two types of incompatibility. There is that your device doesn't meet the Windows 11 hardware requirements. And then there's also going to be the, hey, your device is currently safeguarded by a known issue that might impact that device. But that issue might be resolved later, and then we will roll out to that device. And so that's important to remember because there are multiple different reasons your device may or may not get the update. And some of those will change over time versus some of them, like the hardware requirements, will be consistently in place and block it overall. Now, back to the intelligent rollout part that I showed previously. I want to briefly talk about what that actually means and why we're really excited about it. So we are actually right now not only enabling Intune to give you the target product version, which is available in group policy and CSPs as well. I see that someone commented in the chat that Windows product version wasn't available. It is available for group policy 2004 and above. You might need to look at the template and update it, but it should be available on all 2004 and above devices. It was backported in, I believe, the August preview update, and it was therefore in the September security update and all subsequent security updates as well. Okay, so now on to the new capabilities. We are super excited. We launched the Windows Update for Business deployment service earlier this year, and we are super excited about it because initially we launched just with the target product version capabilities, but it really enables us to do so much more because it actually allows you to go directly from the management tool to the service rather than having to go to the client, which then communicates with the service. And if you don't understand how all that works, I would recommend checking out the Ignite video I did because I draw it out for you versus right now I'm not going to. But with that new service to service communication, we're able to do so much more. And if you're sending us data on your device or you're sending us more information, we can do things like intelligently roll out for you. Meaning that now, instead of just picking a date, you'll be able to pick a date range. You'll be able to have those devices automatically offered within that date range. Or if you prefer to just have it on a certain date, you can do that as well. But this really opens up so many more capabilities about intelligently rolling out to the devices. And this is just the first step. And so this is about to be made available very soon. And we're super excited about it because it'll provide so many more capabilities towards intelligent rollout. And we're going to keep going and build upon these capabilities with the new Windows Update for Business deployment service, both in Intune as well as the Graph API in general via PowerShell and the like. And so if you haven't checked that out, I'd recommend about it. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat and I will try to address them. So those will be available soon. They are not yet available. We are working to add them as we speak. So within the upcoming months, you will start to see those available within Intune. I apologize, the lawnmower is going. There are 2 other questions in chat. I'm going to try and address the questions before getting into recent improvements. So one of the questions from Al is, when a blocker is removed or the compatibility is resolved in Windows 11, how will the endpoint react in terms of deferrals? My concern is that the blocker would get removed, resolved, and the endpoint would start upgrading immediately without advanced notification to the end user. Great question. Okay, so there's 2 different concepts here that are very important. There's deferral, or 3. There's deferrals, there's safeguards, and then there is deadline. So how do deferrals work? Deferrals are literally just, hey, you're going to get offered this update when it's at least X number of days old. So if you say 5 days, let's say, for example, you're going to get offered 5 days after that update was first made available and published. Now, Safeguard says, hey, or Pause also says, hey, there's an issue that you can't upgrade right now because of XYZ issue. To protect you, we're not going to offer it 5 days after the update was released, but we're going to wait beyond that 5 days. Note, if the safeguard is resolved before the 5 days, you still would wait till the 5 days. So now it looks at the update in the service and it says, okay, is this upgrade blocked by safeguards? Nope. Okay. Is this upgrade at least that deferral period of days old? So is it at least 5 days old? Yep. Okay, I'm going to offer right then. And that might be 30 days, 100 days, 10 days after the update was first published, when it first meets both the requirements of deferrals and the safeguard requirement. But how does deadline work? Now, that's really the important part, because deferrals are just whether or not the update is offered to you. The real question is, after the update is offered to you, how long does it take to download, install, and restart, specifically forced restart? That's where compliance deadline comes in. Deadline is going to be from when the update gets offered to the device until the device is then going to be restarted. And so these are some of the improvements we're working on. And so deadline will actually say, okay, you have X period of time to install once you get the update, and then you have grace period time to restart from pending restart. And so even if you are, let's say, 20 days past when your deferral days elapsed because a safeguard was in place, the device will still, no matter what, have that grace period time before they're forced to restart. And that's why we typically recommend at least a 2-day grace period, because then your end user will be notified, hey, you've got this update pending restart. Would you like to restart now, schedule the restart for later, or restart tonight? And then they'll try to automatically restart overnight when the end user isn't there. And then it will say, okay, nope, that didn't work, prompt the user again, so on, so on, so on, until, hey, we're just going to restart you at this time. The end user's aware, we give a 15-minute warning, and then finally force that restart. And so the whole idea is that regardless of whether or not you want to safeguard, the end user experience is much more based off of that compliance deadline, because compliance deadline is what happens after the update is offered, versus deferral is just about when it's offered. Hopefully that helped answer the question. The next question is, how would I make Windows 11 available to a handful of devices for the users to update when they want? To do that, I would recommend targeting the Windows 11 feature update to those devices, again, with the target product version, and then setting a really long deadline. Now, with Windows Update for Business today, there is no seeker capability for Windows Update for Business. It's either you offer it or you don't. But if you set a really long deadline, like 30 days, for example, your end user will have 30 days before they're forced to restart, especially if you set, for example, a 30-day grace period or something like that. You can make that as long as possible to ensure the end user has a very long period, or 7-day grace period, sorry, a very long period before they're forced to restart. But again, there is no seeker period. If you do give your end users admin rights, you could allow them to enroll in release preview, in which case they could seek for Windows 11 themselves and get it. But that really depends on how much control you're giving to your end users. You could also not manage your devices at all, in which case your end users could seek for Windows 11. Okay. Another question from Andres is, in the Q&A feature, Will patches be downloaded as soon as patches are assigned to the user or device group? That really depends on your policies. If you set no policies, your devices are going to get those security updates as soon as they're released. Now, if you set deferrals for quality updates, they're going to get the patches after they are whatever the number of days old that you assigned. So I tend to roll out my devices maybe day 0, day 2, day 4, day 6. And I really actually recommend you use release preview, where you can stay for any feature update version that's in market and get the preview quality updates, which contain all of the non-security and non-critical fixes that end up being in a security update later on. And so I really like to leverage release preview to actually say, okay, what are all those non-security fixes, non-critical fixes that are going to be in the next cumulative security update on Patch Tuesday? Because really a majority of the updates we ship are the non-critical fixes. And so it's good to make sure that those aren't going to break the devices prior to even getting the security update. Okay. One last question, and then we're going to go into the recent improvements. Before 15-minute update restart notification, is there an advance on-screen notice several days or hours before indicating the actual deadline restart time so the user knows the actual deadline date? Great question. So the first notification we show is at pending restart, and we say you have 2 hours to restart. From there, you can say, okay, 2 days to restart. It'll be whatever your grace period number of days is. So your end user would see that. And then later on, they would see you've got 1 day to restart. Do you want to restart now? And then finally, they would say, hey, here's the deadline time, and say you have to restart by this time. We could make it more explicit, but that is how it is today. So they should know, but it really depends on how well they're paying attention. Since, let's be honest, most users aren't actually reading most of those notifications. So it's more about how can we be as direct as possible. Speaking of deadlines and recent improvements, I don't know how many people have noticed, but if you are testing out Windows 11, you'll actually see that there's now a restart estimate time, a time estimate for how long the restart is going to take for your device, which is pretty cool. Since you can now see, hey, this restart says it's going to take 4 minutes for my device or 20 minutes for my device, which gives you a better idea of how long you're going to be away and how long your device is going to be unusable for. Additionally, for WSUS, we have the new 1 cumulative updates that are going to WSUS catalog, shipping the LCUs and SSUs together for 1809 and above. We did add some security to WSUS by enabling certification pinning, which you should definitely do if you're not already, and changing the default proxy behaviors. Additionally, we launched Windows Update for Business Deployment Service and the Graph APIs, which I talked about a bit, and are adding new features there, including some upcoming ones. We enabled scan source for specific update types, which I'm super duper excited about and going to show in a second, as well as did some template improvements. We hadn't updated our Windows Update GP templates overall since Windows 10 launched. And so we did an entire overview and overhaul of that for Windows 11, trying to simplify the Windows Update policy set, make it clear which policies you should use, and reduce policy conflicts. And then we also added prevention for rollback loops. And this was for all update types. So basically that you wouldn't be getting stuck in a rollback loop where you needed to roll back, either you did it yourself or unintentionally it did it automatically. Get offered the update again, roll back again, get offered the update again, roll back again. So we added prevention for that, which has been great as well to see way fewer users hitting that. That was already pretty rare of a scenario, but if you ever got stuck in it, it was tremendously terrible. So we're super excited that that is now fixed and no one new will get stuck in it. I will demo those in a second, but first I want to talk about some of the upcoming improvements, which is we are actually in the process of launching both the new driver and firmware capabilities for Windows Update for Business Deployment Service, which will give you more control over which drivers and firmware are deployed, as well as a new experience for Microsoft Endpoint Manager Configuration Manager, which you can preview right now if you're in the tech preview for Microsoft Endpoint Manager Configuration Manager, to leverage the inbox native notifications and orchestration, the same ones that consumers use and Windows Update for Business uses. So basically you could get those same update notifications and experiences. You could still use commercial attribution. It comes with a bunch of those positive things, but uses the same exact processes, notifications, etc., as you would get if you were using Windows Update for Business or the consumer experience. And so that's super exciting. And we're previewing that now with some of our tech customers. All right, I'm now going to demo on this same page what that actually looks like for our new scan source policies and our new Windows Update templates. So this is a Windows 11 device, and this is my local group policy. So as you know, you go to the Windows Update page, which is under Windows Components, and you'll see now, rather than having a gigantic list of policies with one Windows Update for Business folder at the top, we've actually now put in subfolder structure. There are four folders where everything is inside of. You have legacy policies, which are policies we don't recommend you using and are not supported on Windows 11. I would actually recommend downloading this template and using it on all of your Windows 10 devices as well, because these legacy policies are also not recommended on Windows 10. And many of them are also similarly not supported on Windows 10. We then have a bucket for managing your end user experience. If you're using WSUS Standalone or Windows Update, you can use these group policies to manage what the end user experience is. We then have a bucket for manage offer from Windows Server Update Service, and then manage updates offered from Windows Update. And this is super exciting because it makes it much simpler to say, oh, these are the policies that I need to use if I'm going to manage updates offered from Windows Update, versus, oh, this is what I should use if I'm managing WSUS. It really enables us to not get confused about things like, oh, can I control this for Windows Update? No, that's a WSUS policy. And now I want to show one thing that we're really excited about. We just launched this policy. It was backported earlier this year to Windows 10 version 2004 and above. And this policy is new. It is the evolution of dual scan. If you've heard of dual scan before, or if you were someone who is setting do not allow update deferral policies to scan against Windows Update, pay attention. This policy is no longer supported on Windows 11. Do not use it, do not set it. I would recommend don't even set it on Windows 10. Instead, leverage the new specify scan source policy. The specify scan source policy is going to be an evolution of that. Rather than just saying, oh, don't let deferrals cause scans against Windows Update, we've simplified things. If you configure a WSUS server on Windows 11, that device is purely going to point to WSUS. It doesn't matter if you send deferrals. Deferrals are irrelevant to where you're scanning. What is relevant is this policy. And this policy is relevant because it'll enable you to specify for specific Windows Update classes, whether you want them to come from WSUS or Windows Update. This means your device could scan both Windows Update and Windows Server Update Service, but only get driver updates from Windows Update. You don't need to worry about, even no matter what other policies you have set, you don't need to worry about getting driver updates from WSUS or quality updates from Windows Update or any of these other ones from Windows Update. You will only get from Windows Update whatever you select here. And so this makes it very easy for you to only have set a WSUS server and then to set this policy and have full control over what you're getting from which location. And this is really useful too, because it enables you to move to the cloud slowly. Let's say you're nervous and you're not ready to try it all out, but driver management is an absolute pain and nightmare, which it is. Great, you can just simply set, I want drivers from Windows Update that are applicable to this device, but I don't want anything else from Windows Update. I manage all of the rest of that using WSUS or media, and I don't want to see any of it on Windows Update. Great, set this, you're going to get it. Drivers will be managed from Windows Update with whatever policies from Windows Update you've got set. Everything else will be managed via WSUS. And so we're super excited about these controls because they really provide more flexibility to an admin on how to actually get what from Windows Update and get what from WSUS. And it gives you more of that control of saying, hey, I want to test it out, but I'm not ready there, right? I want to test it out just for quality updates. I want to see how these deferrals and notifications work. Great, come try and go forward. And so I definitely recommend looking at these new Windows 11 templates, even if you're not ready to move to Windows 11 now. They've got great information for Windows 10 as well. And so highly recommend it, highly recommend looking at it. Okay, with that, I'm done sharing. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in chat or put them in the Q&A tool and we can answer them. Otherwise, I will hand it off to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Aria. Amazingly good info, even some stuff that I like taking notes out, especially with the latest policy that you were showing there. Good stuff. If you have any questions, we do have a few more minutes until the a break here. So while we have Aria with us, if you have any questions, feel free to put them out there, either in the Q&A function or in the chat. So there is an anonymous question coming in. Should we be worried about what drivers comes down from Windows Update?
Should we be worried about what?
Drivers that comes down from Windows Update.
I think that depends on your risk tolerance and what you are looking for. I think that drivers from Windows Update is, to me, one of the biggest benefits, purely because it makes it so much easier than like packaging up drivers, getting drivers and deploying them from WSUS or media perspective. You don't have to keep track of it. The device will go scan, it'll send up all of the information about what versions it's running, what hardware it's running, all of that key information, and the service will determine which drivers are applicable and send them down. Now, we do know drivers occasionally break things. And so if you know, oh, these drivers are breaking things, great. You can actually just turn off drivers from Windows Update, figure out what the issue is, and then turn them back on. It's not as though you have to keep it constantly on. I just find it way easier than managing in general. And with that said, soon, we're going to be launching in Intune some new driver capabilities and firmware controls. So you'll be able to turn on that little switch to drivers from Windows Update and then go and manage which drivers and firmware Windows Update actually offers if you're using Intune or the Windows Update for Business Graph API. And so I think at that point, especially, even if you're not willing to turn it on now, which I would if I were you, but I understand different levels of control, you can in the future wait for those controls to be available and then go and manage them specifically.
There was a follow-up question to a piece from your presentation. Someone was looking for documentation for the new policies that you was showing. Do you happen to have a link somewhere that you can share?
Yes, I have a link. I will get one. Let me get a link and put it in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. I know a lot of organizations are interested in getting more control to do downloads of drivers from Microsoft Update directly, instead of just having an on-off switch, but actually getting more state rollouts and better targeting or more targeting options available. So, and I'm looking forward to that myself to see it in preview. So.
Me as well.
Right. See, I don't think there are any other questions coming in.
If there are, feel free to reach out on Tech Community or Twitter or some other way. I am always more than happy to hear feedback and learn from you all and help in any way I can.
Oh, do you have time for 2 more questions that just came in?
Sure. What are the questions?
How will the new group policies for dual scan affect Windows Update for Business and Patch My PC, which is third party?
Yeah, so what they're really doing is basically you would scan both Windows Update and Windows Server Update service. And let's say on both Windows Update for Business as well as Windows Server Update service, you have different management controls. And these management controls are off controlling which updates are offered. Great, so I have now, let's say, updates offered from both. What is happening is the device says, you told me quality updates were going to come from Windows Update only. So all of those quality updates offered from Windows Server Update service, rejected. All of the quality updates sent from Windows Update, accepted and taken. Now, it might also say, oh, you said feature updates were only from WSUS. Good, the feature update came from Windows Update for Business? Nope, rejected. You actually wouldn't get offered one in the first place because we tell the service about that, but ignoring that, you would never get a feature update. And feature update from WSUS, accepted. It's not changing which updates are offered. It is only changing which service is allowed to actually offer them to the device. And so for if you're using Windows for Business, Patch My PC, whatever you're using to control which update is offered, still controls which update is offered. It's just which of those update types is allowed to come to the device from which service.
Oh, and then the final question, I believe, from Ray here. Would the Windows drivers coming from Microsoft Update override a recently installed driver packages that someone installed on the machine itself or updated it manually?
If the drivers are still applicable, which it might not be applicable if you've installed recently a driver package, it might make them unapplicable because you already have it or things like that, or inapplicable, sorry. But otherwise, they would still be installed as well. And I can share in the chat some good recent information that we've been sharing about the drivers, as well as about the scan source policies for folks.
Excellent. We have a lot of folks in this user group that are heavily into deployment. So everything for drivers, they're usually super interested in. So thank you for that.
Let me share some of that information.
Perfect. All right. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and steal the screen for a second.
Yep.
So once again, thank you, Aria, so much for joining us. Valuable information. We have a short break coming up. So in 9 minutes, we'll be joined by Mike Niehaus for some what's new for the Windows 11 for the IT Pro. And yeah, so see you guys back in 8 or 9 minutes. We start at 11:50 again. See if I can get a clock up and running.